Obi-Wan Kenobi has just finished its 6-episode run on Disney+, another show set in the Star Wars universe starring Ewan McGregor, Moses Ingram, Vivian Lyra Blair, Hayden Christensen, Sung Kang and Rupert Friend. The story reunites us with Obi-Wan 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith. He's living in exile on Tatooine, haunted by the ghosts of his past and the PTSD from Order 66, and of course his final confrontation with Anakin Skywalker. And as he's sort of trying to process all that and living with the trauma, he's of course watching Luke from afar to ensure his safety. One day he reluctantly agrees to leave his post, to leave the planet temporarily, in order to rescue the 10-year-old Leia Organa, who has been kidnapped from Alderaan. But that puts him on the radar of the Inquisitors, who are an organization of Force-sensitive Jedi hunters set up by Lord Vader. They have appeared previously in other media, the Rebels cartoon and some video games and comic books, I'm pretty sure as well, but this is, I think, their first appearance in live action. One of the Inquisitors is especially interested in hunting down Obi-Wan, a woman named Reva. But there is, of course, one other person who has a very personal connection and reason to take revenge on him, Vader himself. So, taking into account the prestige of the characters involved, I mean, both Obi-Wan and Vader are among the absolute top, most important characters in the entire Star Wars franchise. I would have expected that this show would be the most well-made, well-produced of all three that were so far released on Disney+, with the other two being The Mandalorian, fantastic, and The Book of Boba Fett, pretty average. Well, to my immense disappointment, Obi-Wan Kenobi ended up being the worst of all three, and the most baffling thing is its amateurish feel throughout the entire season. It really looks and feels like something that a bunch of film students made as a side project for network television, not a professionally produced show that is part of one of the largest franchises in the world, made for fucking Disney, the hugest media corporation in the world as well. Worst of all, the poor quality extends across all of the most basic core elements of a TV show as a medium. The writing is extremely contrived and one-note, the story is riddled with holes, the dialogue, with some exceptions, is poor and simplistic, mostly evident in the character of Reva, who fell completely flat for me. And in many ways, it seems like the show was made for children, in the way that it completely lacks nuance and jumps quickly through events on a very surface level, sometimes in ways that don't make any sense. Like, for example, there's a scene in the show where Obi-Wan talks to a guy who is helping refugees escape to different planets, and Obi-Wan says, "Please help me rescue Leia, I need your help, I need your ship." And the dude responds, "No way, I'm not gonna help you, I don't have time, I have my own stuff to deal with." And Obi-Wan says, "But it's the Empire, you don't understand how evil they are." And the guy, this is not a joke, he goes, "Oh, I do understand how evil they are, because they killed my wife. I will help you with whatever you need." What? What is this turnaround? I mean, some of those contrivances really make it seem like the show has no room to breathe and to explore these characters and conflict, because it has to rush to the next event, to the next sequence, to the next planet. Therefore, being a solid argument in the discussion already raised with several of the Marvel shows on Disney+, is 6 episodes too little? Should these shows be longer? Because as it is, they often do feel somewhat rushed, and they don't allow for the character growth to properly be explored and to breathe, which is something I agree on some level. Anyway, back to Obi-Wan specifically. The plot also has plot twists in the shape of characters coming back to life from lightsaber stab wounds, which happens 3 times. And you know, there is precedent, Darth Maul, of course, but having everyone do that now, I think cheapens his character, and I think it makes this world kind of boring, because it lowers the stakes. So what if someone gets killed by a lightsaber? Oh, they are actually alive. There are also huge problems with direction. The chase scenes are absolutely embarrassing, especially the 2 ones involving Leia in episode 1 and 2. And also Reva parkouring unnecessarily around the city rooftops, also in episode 2. There's a point where Vader has Obi-Wan dead to rights with the assist of multiple stormtroopers, and you think this is it. And then one lady starts shooting at them from afar, and the super slow droid pulls Obi-Wan away to safety, and the bad guys just sort of walk away for no reason. Then in episode 5, the way that the siege of the refugee base is staged and depicted is just nonsensical and tries to cover the awful choreography with shaky handheld cinematography. There are problems with editing. Like in the final episode, the show abruptly cuts away from the climactic duel between Obi-Wan and Vader to show us a terrible fight scene elsewhere on another planet, completely ruining the pacing of the scene. I was like, no, go back to that. That's actually a good scene. Why don't you just let me watch it in its entirety? Why do we have to cut to this stupid B-plot? There's also another episode where Leia enters a tunnel, okay, at point A and goes through it to point B. We then see another character enter at point A after Leia is already inside. But when Leia gets to point B, that character is already there waiting. This is teleporting. This is just logistically nonsensical, and I hate when shows do that. I know it may seem like a small thing, but when the small things don't work, the bigger picture also kind of doesn't. Now, after every episode, I would be shaking my head in disbelief at just how bad it was, and I would go to the Star Wars subreddit to check out other people's opinions. And this was a very schizophrenic experience for me, because people over there seemed to like the show very much, and they almost not only didn't criticize, but didn't even discuss any of the poor elements. Maybe sometimes someone would mention it, like, oh, I know this was bad, but I like this aspect. And to be fair, there are some things which the show does right, or even very right. Ewan McGregor gives a solid performance, and he tries to make the best he can with the material he's given. The final confrontation was pretty damn amazing. The lighting of the scene, the emotions involved, I mean, it's just good stuff. Vader himself has many new killer one-liners to different people. His confrontation with Reva in episode 5 is just magnificent, not counting its conclusion. It was great to see Hayden Christensen again after his poor performances in the prequels have been somewhat redeemed and revalidated by all the funny memes and the love coming from there over the last couple of years. Other people also seemed to like a couple elements of fan service, but to me it was too much. It mostly felt like trying to fill holes that weren't there, to add knowledge that we didn't really need. It's like now every single aspect of a character has to be explained, has to have a backstory. Every element of clothing has to be shown its origin. I think it's silly, and I think it does remove the mystic, but whatever. In any case though, the point is, there are elements to enjoy about the show, yes, absolutely, but I think ignoring everything that's wrong to focus on just the good stuff I think it's dishonest, and I think it's delusional in this case, because the fundamentals are so distractingly bad. Put it like this, imagine you went to a famous Italian restaurant and you ordered a pizza. It's not gourmet food, but it's damn good pizza and has been for years. They bring it to your table and the dough isn't properly cooked, it's raw. The salami is rotten, the cheese is spoiled, there is no sauce, but there are some green and black olives on top. They're admittedly very tasty, and there's like 4 of them on each slice. And the Star Wars fan in this scenario is a guy who eats that entire pizza and says, yeah, you know, maybe it wasn't perfect, maybe it could have been cooked better, and perhaps I will get sick in an hour, but let's not be too critical because the olives were so amazing and I really love olives. Motherfucker, yes, the olives might be good, but at some point you have to admit that everything else is dog shit, and there's not enough of the good stuff to justify being positive. And I'm saying this also as a Star Wars fan. I like the franchise, I like the characters, but this is not an acceptable level of quality that should be expected of Star Wars content. This is extremely disappointing.